Hi guys, thanks for joining me, and today we're going to talk about a couple of things that you can do to improve your photography and also make your life easier. Two of them you can do right now, after this video, and for the third one you'll need to buy a little bit of gear, but don't worry, nothing crazy. Now here we're talking about things like the rule of thirds, leading lines, and what many people say is that you must have an obvious subject in the photo. But is that always the case? Here we have a photo that I took last year, and it's actually perfectly following every rule I just mentioned. We have the rule of thirds and the subject placed exactly in the cross section. You can even argue that the slope of the mountain acts like a leading line towards the subject, and obviously we have the subject. But it's not always as straightforward. Here, for example, we have an image with the subject dead center in the middle of the image. And is it worse than the other one? I don't know, I like them both. And here, for example, we could have three different potential subjects, either the cross, the mountains, or the snow. Does that take away from the photo? I don't think so. Sometimes I think it's more about the mood that you are sharing in an image than the actual subject itself. Well, to be honest, I think these rules are actually helpful, especially for beginners, because they kind of serve the purpose of a North Star, so you know kind of what to do in the beginning and aren't just completely overwhelmed with a whole world of possibilities. So that's nice to focus on certain guidelines and parameters, but I think that's all they are, really. Guidelines, and you can choose to ignore them or not, especially when you are further on in your photography journey. And kind of similar to that, I believe, are the manual controls of your camera. Now, don't get me wrong, you should absolutely learn how to use your camera and what ISO is, what aperture is, what shutter speed is, and what it does. But you don't have to use it in manual all the time to feel like a proper photographer, or whatever that means. In fact, and this might come as a shock, many professional photographers don't and use semi-automatic or fully automatic modes instead. And why is that if they are pros, right? Well, imagine you're a wildlife photographer, or a wedding photographer for that matter, because it works the same way. But let's stick with a wildlife example here. So you're a wildlife photographer and you've got an animal that briefly shows up, and you've only got a couple of seconds to take the shot. What's more important to you, to actually get the shot of the elusive animal, elusive unicorn in the woods, or make sure that you manually set in all your settings? I mean, it's not that hard. I, for one, will choose getting the actual shot every single time. So get over the idea, it's not that important that you choose your manual settings every single time. And there are these semi-automatic modes for pretty much any scenario. So, for example, for a fast-moving bird, you might want to use shutter speed priority. But for most general purposes, for me, usually I really like aperture priority, because you are in control of the depth of field in the frame, and the camera sets everything else, meaning the ISO and the shutter speed accordingly. Limiting yourself to one thing can be highly beneficial. Now, why do I say that, and what do I actually mean? Because limiting yourself doesn't really sound like a good thing, right? But let's think about it. Let's say you are limiting yourself to one specific focal length, one lens, one type of photography, or one type of subject that you're going to tackle today. That's going to free you up immensely and greatly improve your photography overall, especially again for beginners, which might really get overwhelmed by the whole world surrounding them and not knowing what to shoot, what lens to use, or what focal length you're going to use, especially if you have a zoom lens. That makes things even more difficult, because now you have to choose, do I go with 18 millimeters, do I go with 30 millimeters, 50 millimeters, 100, who knows? But let's put this into practice. So what you do is Today you want to go out for a day of photography shoot, right? Let's say street photography for this example. So let's pick only one lens. You're going to pick a 30mm prime lens, and if you don't have a 30mm prime lens, you're going to take your zoom lens, the kit lens, for example, if you have it, but you're only going to use the 30mm part of that lens. That's really going to help you, I believe. If not, you can let me know. But yeah, I would like you to try that and let me know in the comments if that actually helped you or not. And yeah, I'm really curious about that. And believe me, it's not just for beginners. I think anyone at any stage in their photography journey can be overwhelmed at some point. And this is great advice for everyone, including myself. I should do that more often. And on top of that, two more things could happen. One is practice makes perfect. So you will get better at what you're practicing to do. For example, you'll get better at 50mm photos. And the second thing is actually a pretty big one, and people can spend their whole lives and not really achieve this one, but you could potentially find your favorite type of photography. And that's not so easy to be able to tell or to figure it out. But yeah, you can definitely have this as an outcome. Filters are a great way to improve your photography, and they are pretty cool to experiment with because you can achieve results which otherwise would be impossible. Today we're discussing ND filters, these things. But there are a number of other cool ones like polarized filters, which cut down on reflections and also improve your saturation in photos in a pretty natural way. ND filters might actually be more popular with videographers than photographers these days because of the 180-degree rule in video. But photographers as well can benefit greatly from filters, especially if they want to do some long exposure photos. Here's an example: waterfalls. And this is what it looks like if you don't have an ND filter with you. Not great, not terrible, but the ironic thing is your smartphone will probably be able to make it look much better than your expensive camera without an ND filter. So what you'll need is your camera, a tripod, and some good filters. And I do want to emphasize on the good filters part, because the last thing you want to do is put a cheap piece of glass in front of your expensive lens that might potentially ruin your photos, right? So let's take a look at some images I got with my camera with and without ND filters, and immediately you can see a big difference. This is how photographers get that dreamy, very smooth effect of bodies of water. Maybe you don't always want this effect, but it's very powerful to be able to achieve it when you do want it. But ND filters are useful without water as well. Here's a picture without an ND filter, and this is one with an ND filter, and it completely changes the photo, and it's much more dynamic and shows the speed of the vehicles. And from this point it's just trial and error, and you're going to take multiple photos until you are happy with the result. And if you don't like some things to be too blurry, you can either blend that item with a normal picture without an ND or just delete it altogether, like I did here with the flag. But filters. They're a hassle to use, right? You have to screw them on and then take them off, and it takes a while, and they're really, really hard to use, right? Believe me, I hear ya, and I'm a pretty lazy person. I do not like to use filters or even tripods for that matter in general, just because it adds to the complexity of photography. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's where magnetic filters come in very handy. This is a kit from K&F Concept, and this model in particular starts at ND8, then ND64, even includes a gradient filter, and the strongest one, ND1000. So all you have to do is screw on the adapter ring once, and then you can snap on and off any filter you want in the blink of an eye. It's just so cool. Let's do it again. Ah, that's so satisfying. Okay, one more. Yeah. And you can even get a magnetic aluminum lens cap that snaps on top of the filter, which means you won't ever have to unscrew the adapter, right? They come in a bunch of different sizes, but what I would recommend to you is look at your biggest lens filter thread size, get that one, and then you can use step-up rings to use them on all your lenses. And I want to thank K&F Concept for sending me this kit of magnetic filters to try them on and test them out. But honestly, I would talk about them anyways because I believe they're a good product that makes your life easier as well. So they are really a worthwhile investment. And so only if you are interested and in the market for some filters, check out the description below and you will find a link to get them along with a discount code for 5% off. And they've also recently launched a new app called Bean 2, and it seems pretty cool for photographers to get inspiration and also cool spots for photography if you want to try it out. So that's been it from my side. I hope you find these tips useful. If you do, let me know in the comments. If you don't, let me know in the comments. But I do hope you are willing to at least try them out and yeah, see where it goes. But see you in the next one. Cheers!